party starts to come alive until the day is dawning. We can throw out all the blues and hit the city lights, 'cause there's music in the air and lots of loving everywhere. So give me the night. Music in the air and lots of loving everywhere. So give me the night. Give me the night.
Hi there everybody and welcome to the Point Blank Virtual Online Open Day. My name is Luke.
My name is John.
And thank you so much for joining us. We've got a great session in store for you today. Just to give you a bit of a run through as to what we're going to be discussing and giving you information about. I'm going to be doing a quick presentation at the start, just going through all of the courses that we offer here at Point Blank and explaining a little bit how they work and what you can expect to learn if you come or choose to come and study with us. We're also going to be meeting one of our expert lecturers a little later on, John Davies, who's also got an awesome masterclass in store for you at the end of today's session.
Yeah, and while Luke's doing all that, I'll be behind the scenes answering any questions that you have. I can see there's been some engagement in the chat room already, fantastic. I can see we've got people joining us from all over the world already, from Ho Chi Minh to Florida, a place like Switzerland, and loads around the London area as well. So do let us know where you're joining us from. If you've got any questions, just get them in the chat room. And yeah, we're going to have a Q&A session at the end of the event today.
Absolutely. Great. Well, to get us started, we feel that the best way to kind of get an idea about how it works here at Point Blank is to get a student's point of view as to what the courses might be like. So I've got a video that I'd like to share with you, which is going to go into a bit more detail as to what you can expect and how everything works here at Point Blank. So take a look at this video and we'll check you out just straight after.
If you're already a DJ or producer, if you work a 9-to-5 job, if you're a student elsewhere, taking an online course allows you to improve your production skills in your own time. You choose when you want to do it. I can get in from a gig at 6, 7 in the morning. I can wake up when I want and get on with the course, surrounded by the comforts of my own home. Every week a new element of the course is introduced. There's an extensive lesson and then you're left with a whole sort of library of sounds, project files, tracks for you to just experiment with.
So an example of one of the lessons might be talking about how to arrange a tune. So we might take a very well-known track and break it down, use it as a template, and then we would make a video on how you could apply that template to your own tune. There'd be some audio examples, an arrangement that was listed, and then there'd be a series of videos which are tutorials.
They're kind of cutting edge, up to the minute techniques covered in short, informative tutorial videos that everybody can understand.
And then there would often be a downloadable project as well, so you can then go and try it out for yourself, which is a really brilliant feature.
By the time the masterclass comes, there's your chance to iron out stuff you might be stuck on.
The masterclass is a weekly live session, which you simply log on to the Point Blank online site, go to your course, click on the chat room window, and what you'll see is a text field where you can input questions for your tutor. You'll also see a video screen which will carry the tutor's computer screen. You'll be able to see everything that they're doing. They'll be demonstrating for you music production techniques based on that week's course content, and also you'll be able to see your tutor speaking to you live in real time. So you can get instant feedback, instant one-to-one answers to your questions.
I'm going to load a snare sound into the simpler device and essentially use resonators to create a musical tone out of a snare sound.
Every 2 weeks, you will receive a one-to-one video tutorial. The session is recorded as a high-quality video for you to keep. To have that kind of interactivity and to have someone feeding back on your work is just gold dust, you know. And I think this kind of steel can sound is brilliant. I mean, that's a real kind of hook of the track, this. Maybe let's just try recording something in. The response that the tutor gives is completely tailored to the student's style of music or the level that they're at as well. So it might be nice to spice up this drum track by adding a delay, and you can see I've put one here in the return of the drum rack, and if we just apply that to the clap now, you see it has a really nice effect.
This one-on-one time can happen anywhere because it's online, but I can be on the move, I can be at my parents' house.
I've had students in Australia, Japan, America, anywhere in Europe, you know, really you can be anywhere.
The ability varies hugely, everyone's on different levels.
Part of the skill of the tutors is to adapt to those different levels of ability. There are some students who really are quite advanced.
A little while back, I taught Claude Von Stroke on the dubstep course, which I wrote.
It was really great. I learned tons of stuff.
Very established producer, but he was open and wanted to learn new things in a new genre.
There are other students who really do come in at a basic level, and it's amazing to see how well they progress actually.
You could be a house producer or you could be a gabba producer, it doesn't matter. Do you create relationships with people? There's a chance for collaborations with other producers.
I've had quite a few instances where after the courses have finished, students have hit me up saying that they hooked up while they were on the course and they've finished a track and they've sent it to me via SoundCloud or something, and that's great. I love seeing that.
This is an opportunity to get involved, you know, with other people who just want to do exactly the same thing as you.
If you want to find out more, make sure you check out pointblankmusicschool.com.
Sweet, so there you have it. Hopefully that's given you a bit of an in-person point of view in terms of what you can expect to learn when you come and study with us at Point Blank. Now, next up, I wanted to kind of go into a bit more detail about, well, I guess us and our history and our background, how we got started. We've been established now since 1994. We're coming up to our 30-year anniversary, which we're really excited about. And we're really fortunate over the years to have won many awards and accolades. Most recently, last year in 2022, we got an 82% student satisfaction score, which I really think speaks volumes of what our students think they're getting in terms of education from us here at Point Blank. We've also won winner of the Best Independent HE School, as well as receiving a TEF Silver Award for Teaching Excellence. Now, I'm going to be going into a bit more detail about this later on, but we offer higher education, degree level courses, as well as professional courses. I think the majority of you here today are interested in our professional courses. Some of you are looking at HE, and I think some of you are also not really sure as to what you want to study. But hopefully by the end of today's open day, you'll have a better idea about which course is the best one for you. Now, as many of you probably know, we are a global student community. So currently we're in London. We also have campuses based in Los Angeles and Ibiza, Mumbai. We've got 2 campuses in China. But today's open day is really about the online school. It's about students who are going to be studying with us online, doing our online courses from all 4 corners of the globe. As John mentioned earlier on, we've got loads of you who are logging in from all around the world. And it really does show the kind of multicultural and kind of openness that studying at Point Blank offers you, and the great networking opportunities and connections that are going to be available to you when you come and study with us. Studying at Point Blank is a really student-centered approach. It's more than just the course. It's about being part of the student community that we have here, allowing you to start meeting people, start collaborating with people, working with expert lecturers, also, you know, with your peers, and growing together and hopefully becoming the future of the music industry. Now, over the years, we've partnered up with a lot of the main industry partners. So companies like Roland, Solid State Logic, Native Instruments, Ableton. These are just some of the companies that kit out our studios here in London, but they're also some of the software programs that you're going to be working with online when you're studying with us at Point Blank. We've got loads of great contacts with these companies, so we can also help our students out with exclusive discounts on software through Ableton, for instance, Waves, and Native Instruments. Now, for those of you who are interested in studying our higher education courses, we offer a Bachelor of Arts Honours degree in Music Production and Sound Engineering, which is the 3-year degree course. Or, if you're just looking to do something a bit shorter, we offer a Cert HE, that's a Certificate of Higher Education, which is equivalent to the first year of that same BA degree, again, in Music Production and Sound Engineering. All of these degree courses are validated by Middlesex University. So Middlesex quality assure and accredit all of our courses, and you would then graduate with a Middlesex award when you finish the course. However, everything is delivered, it's developed by us at Point Blank, and it's delivered online when you're studying with us. So as mentioned, we offer 1 or 3-year course programs, and we have 2 enrolments per year. That's every October and every April. So you don't need to wait a whole academic year before you can get started again. We've got enrolments every 6 months. For those of you looking at studying our professional courses, well, first of all, we've got a start date coming up really soon on the 10th of July. We've still got availability for all those classes, so book your place now and you can get started straight away. In terms of what we teach for our professional courses, we're looking at music production and sound engineering courses. We've got DJing courses, as well as the all-important music business side of things. If you're looking at starting a professional career in the music industry and understanding the music industry side of things, the business is vitally important to your success. Unlike the degree courses, for the professional courses, we have enrolments every 3 months. And the next start date, as mentioned, is going to be on the 10th of July. Now, how do our online courses work? So we offer full or part-time courses. Full-time is going to be studying 2 modules at a time. It's going to be a bit more intensive, and we recommend you study around 20 hours per week. And if you're studying with us part-time, you're looking at doing 1 module per week, and you're going to be studying 10 hours typically per week is what we recommend. One of the great things about studying with us online, as you've seen, is it offers flexible learning. So you can study from anywhere in the world. You can fit your studies around your work commitments, around family commitments, around other studies that you might be doing. You choose when you study. So that flexibility is really important, vital, and one of the kind of most attractive options about joining our online courses. Next up, funding. This is a question we get asked quite often. Can I get funding for your courses? Now, if you are a UK-based student and you're looking at doing one of our higher education courses, our degree program, for instance, then you can get a full student loan company tuition fee loan. That will finance all of the tuition fees. If you're looking at doing our professional courses, then we offer termly and monthly instalment plans, which can break those costs down into more manageable chunks. Remember, we're going to be doing a Q&A at the end of today's session, so get your questions into the chat room. John's going to be answering those throughout today's session, but we're also going to answer questions live at the end of today's open day too. Next up, I want to go into a bit more detail about sort of what you can expect from the courses. How does it work? We offer live weekly 2-hour masterclasses. These are available usually midweek, and it's from the hours of 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. UK time. If you are over in the Americas, then we usually offer some masterclasses that are going to be between 7 and 9 p.m. your local time, wherever you might be over the other side of the pond. On top of the masterclasses, you get one-to-one sessions every 2 weeks with your lecturers, as well as additional one-to-one studio lab time with our technicians. There's extensive tutorial videos, course notes, audio examples, downloadable projects, templates, assignments, exercises, coursework, as well as a forum and a chat room to kind of converse and chat with your fellow classmates on the course. To go into a bit more detail about that, well, I've got another video that I'd like to share with you. So take a look at this video, and then after we're going to check out. Enjoy.
Well, the masterclasses are our chance to go about the material. It's like being in a class together, you know, and it's pretty cool because a lot of people become friends over in the chat room, and then they start collaborating and making music. In all effects, it's like being in a class all together. question. I would like to know, you guys in the chat room, where you guys are from. So let me check. Greece, Jersey Channel. All right, so okay, same time here. Romania, but based in Copenhagen. Very beautiful. I love Copenhagen very much. Normally they happen at the same day, at the same time every week, so it's very easy for students to organize. What they do is they just connect onto the Point Blank VLE. They see me, they see my screen. I chat to them so everyone can also see them and we can have a discussion. The advantage is that everything gets recorded, so students can go back and refer to material over and over again, can watch more videos. There is a lot of exercises and it can all be done at whatever pace the student wants, so they can all approach it in different ways.
On certain set weeks throughout your module, you'll be able to have a live one-to-one Zoom call with your lecturer. This is a great opportunity for you to ask questions about your assignments, any help you need regarding exercises, or anything regarding the course content. The week before the one-to-one tutorial is set to take place, your lecturer will give you a set of time slots, which you can find here. You can find a time slot that suits you best and confirm your booking. In order to get your certificate of completion, you'll need to attend a minimum of 3 out of 5 one-to-one sessions with your lecturer. Your lecturer will provide you an exercise you need to complete 1 week before your scheduled one-to-one. If you'd like your lecturer to give you help on a specific project, you'd need to zip it up and upload it here. When it's time for your one-to-one, you'll need to go back to the one-to-one tutorial page of your selected module. There you'll find a button that says Join Zoom Session. Click this to join your tutorial. Alternatively, you can also join it from the one-to-one booking page by clicking the blue Zoom icon. Let's look at an example of a one-to-one with our lecturer, John Watson.
I'm not sure if you've used this before. So this is a notch band. And
what
this will do is you don't have control of the gain because it simply cuts out completely, and the cue determines how wide that cut is.
Feel free to ask the lecturers any questions that you might have during this one-to-one tutorial. This is your chance to tap the brains of our expert lecturers and tailor the course to your needs.
Great stuff. So I hope you enjoyed that, and it's given you a bit of a better idea as to sort of how the one-to-ones work and how all the materials are delivered throughout the course. If you have any questions, remember, pop those in the Q&A and we'll answer those at the end of today's session. So, as I was mentioning earlier on, before I lost my train of thought, we're going to catch up with John Davies, who's magically appeared. How are you doing, John? Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I'm doing good, thank you.
Good, fantastic. So we think it's a great idea for everyone who's attending today to kind of get to know a little bit about who the people that are going to teach them are. So it'd be great to find out a little bit about yourself, your background. First of all, I guess, can you tell us a little bit about what you teach here at Point Blank?
Yeah, so I was trying to work it out. I think it was 7 years ago, not 8, I first started teaching music composition. And after teaching that for a few terms, I also started teaching advanced composition, which is a module that happens right at the end of our 18-module master diploma and degree programs. I've also taught art of mixing here and songwriting, and I've taught synthesis and sound design in different jobs in the past, so I'd actually quite fancy having a go teaching sound design at some point. So you may see me at any point during your courses.
Awesome. So it sounds like you're a man of many musical skills and knowledge.
Jack of all trades.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit maybe about your journey into the music industry. How did you get started as a producer, as a composer, as a musician? Where did it all begin for you?
Well, I studied classical composition at university, but whilst I was a student, I got really into DJing and electronic music, hip hop, drum and bass, and kind of worked out that what I wanted to do was be a producer. So I moved down to London, got a job in an Apple store teaching Logic, and just set about working with as many people as I could work with. My policy was just do a session with everyone and see who was on my wavelength. A couple of years after doing that, an artist that I've been working with for quite a while, we'd made about 20 tracks. He put out 4 of them. That was his debut EP. And 2 weeks later, I was going bowling with the head of Columbia Records and Lily Allen because he was signing this big record deal, which was great. So I could quit my job at the Apple store and do that full time. And I produced his debut album, and also went on tour as his keyboard player and musical director, which was really great. Unfortunately, he didn't get as much of a fan base as I think the record label was hoping, so unfortunately he then got dropped, which happens.
Yeah.
So I licked my wounds and then started mixing professionally for 3 or 4 years, doing pop records and live albums, and also quite a lot of film and TV work. And then awesome. I enjoyed it, but I missed the sort of in-person, getting excited about ideas, helping unsigned artists at the beginning of their career find their voice and just develop their voice as an artist. So on a whim, I saw the music composition job at Point Blank being advertised, did it, came out the first lecture, called my girlfriend at the time, was like, this is what I want to do with my life, because me as a lecturer, I feel like is the closest thing to what producers used to be back in the day, 30 years ago, sitting in a studio, getting excited about ideas. So yeah.
Sounds great. Whilst you were working kind of, I guess, a bit more professionally in the industry, mixing, working with other artists, were there any artists in particular that sort of highlights of kind of people that you worked with, that you collaborated with throughout your career?
Yeah, a couple spring to mind. I did this album with my favourite band in the world. They're called the Riot Jazz Brass Band, and they did this gig live at a venue called Band on the Wall in Manchester, and I recorded the whole thing. It was quite weird actually, because they were doing this amazing, energetic gig with like 4 trombones and 4 trumpets and an MC and like drum and bass drums, and I was there sat in a very small room on the 4th floor, just kind of hitting record. But yeah, that was cool. I also worked doing some additional mixing and mastering on a TV series called Humans that a friend of mine composed the music for, and that was cool because that was like one of the things that my mum actually saw. She was like, oh yeah, I watched that. Yeah.
Brilliant. And so can you kind of maybe go into a bit more detail or give us a bit more insight into perhaps what a student might be learning on your course? I know that you're going to be doing a masterclass for us later on, going into a bit more detail about that, but what could a student expect to learn, let's say, on the composition course, for instance?
So I think the music composition module, what it's aimed to do is to get students who might not have made music before to the stage where they can finish their first fully fledged composition, and students who have a bit more experience to really just hone your style and give you a load of options that you can use to create really exciting arrangements, exploring different genres and styles. There's quite a bit of music theory in the module, but it's not just a music theory module. What I'm trying to do is show students different ways that they can create different emotions, feelings through music. Basically give you a load of tools that you can use to experiment with, to write better music that's, I guess, a little bit closer to the musical ideas that you might have in your head.
Awesome, cool. So last but not least, what advice would you give to our attendees that are watching this open day today, that are thinking about coming and studying with us at Point Blank, thinking about careers in the music industry? What advice would you have liked to have received if you were in their position right now that you would give them?
Yeah, I think something that I always encourage my students to do is to experiment, because the more music you write, the more experiments you make, the more tools you're going to add to your arsenal, and also the more mistakes you're going to make. So just writing lots and lots of music, experimenting with synthesis and sound design and different ways to use samples, experimenting with mixing, because like first track I mixed was rubbish. And the reason that I became a professional mixer was because I mixed 100, 200 tracks, learned from each one until the stage where actually I could do a decent mix. And the second thing is a piece of advice that someone gave to me at the beginning of my career, which was get to know your generation. Basically, network, make friends with everyone, because the more people you make friends with, do sessions with, collaborate with, those people will end up maybe being a contact at a record label, or your future manager, or someone who goes on tour and says, do you want to come and support me? So yeah, just getting to know as many musicians as possible and working out who your crowd are, who your people are.
Absolutely. Well, very wise words. I couldn't agree with it more. Listen, thank you so much for taking the time
You're welcome.
to meet us, meet our attendees and speak with us today. We're going to be catching up very soon for the masterclass very shortly. But yeah, this is John Davies. If you have any questions for John, then do please put those in the Q&A and you'll be able to answer those a little later on. Cool. So next up, I want to talk about our opportunities section. Yeah, let's move on to that. So starting with essentially how we engage our students with careers, opportunities, looking at the music industry as a whole, what sorts of opportunities we can afford you throughout the music industry. So let's first of all have a look at what the music industry is. It's a global industry. It's worth $19 billion and it sustains around 190,000 jobs in the UK alone. Now, John gave us some very wise words earlier on over there, which is collaborating, networking, meeting people. One important thing to remember about the music industry is that it is a networking industry. Above all, it's about connections, contacts, and meeting people and the opportunities they can afford you throughout your career. Now, as I mentioned earlier on, Point Blank has a global community. We've got 6 campuses around the world, 50,000 plus students and alumni, and you get access to over 2 million followers through all of our social network platforms. When you become part of Point Blank, you become part of what we like to call the Point Blank ecosystem. And this allows you to collaborate with other musicians, producers, writers, singers, DJs, meet managers, and loads of people that will be able to help you throughout your careers. It's these sorts of contacts that are going to afford you the best opportunities as you progress and learn and grow throughout your career. Remember, when you study at Point Blank, it's a very student-focused approach. It's about helping you achieve your aspirations, your career goals, and become successful. Remember, your success means our success. So the more students we have that become successful in the music industry, the better that makes Point Blank look. And you know, we want to help our students get the best head start in the music industry. So how do we do this? Well, we do this through virtual drop-in sessions and one-to-ones. We'll do things like CV writing clinics. We'll give you application tips and interview tips, for instance, and we'll offer all sorts of opportunities. They could be, for instance, a volunteering opportunity, an internship, or a full-time job. And as you can see on the screen, these are just a couple of the different partners that we've had offer jobs and opportunities to our students. Remember, these are exclusive to Point Blank. You won't find them elsewhere. That's because it's a networking industry, and we've managed to acquire these opportunities through our contacts, through our network that we've established in the music industry. Now, another thing that we do a lot of are events. We're looking at ways or other ways to connect you to the music industry. So this could be like a listening session, for instance, student showcases. We'll do masterclasses. So we've got one coming up with John very shortly. But we'll also do other online masterclasses with established music producers, with music industry professionals that you can become part of, that you can ask questions to, and that hopefully can inspire you to become as successful as they've been. Now, last but not least, I also wanted to mention Point Blank Recordings. This is our own in-house record label. It essentially develops and promotes Point Blank student talent. So we're always on the lookout for new student talent that we could potentially sign to our record label and give them the opportunity to, be exposed to the wider music industry. So we have budgets for artists and repertoire, artist development, there's marketing and publishing that goes into it. And we also look to connect you with industry legends. So in the past, we've done work with Kathy Sledge, Kim Mizell, Ultranate, pretty big stars over the years that you might have the opportunity to work with, and other musicians and producers too. Now, next up, we want you to hear from our students and see what they think about our courses. So I've got a video that I'd like to share with you before I kind of go into a bit more information about our alumni and who they were over the years. So check this out and we'll reconvene straight after.
Hi guys, this is Smokey. I'm a singer, songwriter, future music producer, currently studying the online Search HE program at Point Blank on music production and sound engineering, and I'm absolutely loving it. I particularly like the virtual learning environment a lot because I can take my course whatever time suits me best. Plus, since it's all on video, I can always go back, re-watch something if I miss some information, which is very useful. So I feel like Point Blank is really helping me stay focused, structure my career better, and just be more creative in general. So thank you guys.
Hey everyone, I'm Jared Boylatad. I'm a music producer and aspiring sound engineer. I'm taking the BA Honors Music Production and Sound Engineering degree at Point Blank Music School online. I've had an amazing experience studying with Point Blank. I love the way the lessons are taught, especially when using the VLE. It's very intuitive and the modules are well organized. I get to have plenty of one-to-one sessions and master classes with my teachers where I can get personal attention and really hone my skills to the professional level.
It's your big dog Sheldon Curl, and I'm enrolled up in a Master Diploma program at Point Blank Music School online. And what I like about Point Blank Music School is everything is practical to today's music. All the hits, the music theory, everything that we study, everything that we go through, everything we learn how to program, everything is relevant to today's music. And that what makes Point Blank so awesome. Have a good one.
Cool, so there you have it. So just a few testimonials of students and what they think about their experiences with us at Point Blank Online. Now, last but not least, before we move on to our masterclass with John, I just basically wanted to share with you a few of our alumni. We've been really fortunate in the past nearly 30 years of teaching loads of our students, and quite a few of them have gone on to become incredibly successful in the music industry. It's our goal to give you all the tools and skills that you need to go on and become just as successful as they've been, if not even more successful. So do take a look at this final video before we reconvene for this afternoon's masterclass. Take a look at this.
Everybody feel it come around with the rhythm, it's a sound. Every feel it come around with round. Everybody feel it come around with the rhythm, it's a sound. Everybody get down when we give it to you. Everybody feel it come around with round. Everybody feel it come around with round. Everybody feel it come around with round. Everybody in the pump. Everybody in the pump. Everybody in the pump. Everybody in the pump.
So there you have it, just a few of our student alumni over the years. You may have recognised a few familiar faces or a couple of those tunes. So yeah, hopefully that's showed you, potentially what you can go on and achieve too. Now, we've got John back with us.
We have.
And we've got your awesome masterclass I'm really looking forward to. So yeah, we think, it gives you a bit of an idea as to what the teaching is like here at Point Blank. So yeah, I'll pass the reins over to you, John. And yeah, do tell us what we've got in store.
Well, when these guys asked me to come and give a quick little presentation, a student of mine in the music composition course had just said, the best thing about this module was that one thing you taught in week 6. So I thought, if it's the best thing for that student, I'll come and show you guys. It's a little technique that you can use to take a quite repetitive, fine but maybe boring chord progression and make it really go somewhere. Basically make your chord progressions less boring. And this is something that, as I said, I talk about in week 6. So by that point, we will have already had a look at keys and scales and chords and how to build basic chord progressions. Can these guys see my screen at the moment?
I think they can,
yeah. Wonderful. Okay, so I'm going to start off by building a little chord progression.
Sweet.
I'm going to choose the key of A minor for my track. And the reason I'm going to do that is so that I can use this nifty little tool in Ableton that allows me to get rid of any notes that aren't in the key or the scale that I want to be in. So if I press this little scale button, then it's eliminated all of the black notes, all of the notes that aren't in that scale. And that means that whatever note I add now, it's going to sound quite in key with the rest of my track. So I'm going to start by creating a note there, A. Now the first thing I'm going to do to build this chord progression is start with a chord. I'm going to start with a triad, which is a chord with 3 notes in it. And all I need to do is play in that note, skip a note, play in the 3rd note, skip the 4th, and play the 5th, like so. And I now have a nice little chord. Lovely. I say lovely, I'm actually just going to brighten that a little bit so you can hear it a bit clearer. So, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to duplicate that a few times to create a basic chord progression. I'm using a series of keyboard shortcuts, Command D to duplicate something, and Command J in Ableton to join those guys together. So I'm going to repeat this chord progression 4 times, he says, although why am I not hearing that chord? Let's just try that again. Went perfectly in sound check, didn't it?
These things happen sometimes, you know, but we'll get there.
There we go.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to hear. So now I've got 4 chords, and I'm going to create a sort of chord progression that's going to really go somewhere. I wanted to kind of create this feeling of ascending, getting more exciting, and then coming back down to rest at the end. So to do that, I'll select this 2nd chord, and I'm going to use this keyboard shortcut up arrow, and it's Option up arrow if you're a Logic user, to go up there. And then I'm going to get this next one to go even higher, and then finally I'm going to come down to rest there, and that should be quite a nice 4 chord progression. And I've set that to loop for a good long while in Ableton. Now, I know that some of you might be quite new to music. Others of you might already have some music theory chops under your belt. So for those guys who know exactly what's going on here, here's just one little advanced thing that I talk about in my week 7 Advanced Harmony Masterclass. And if you're new to music theory, then take 30 seconds and don't even worry about what's going on here. But if I come out of this scale view, so I'm now showing all the notes, not just the ones in my scale, but the ones that are out of my scale. I want to make this chord progression feel a little bit less predictable. And to do that, I'm going to use a note that shouldn't actually be there. This is an advanced music theory concept known as borrowed chords or modal interchange, but essentially it involves taking this, which is a minor chord, and turning it into a major chord. Again, it's going to feel like it shouldn't really be there, but it's going to sound kind of cool. Well, let's have a listen. Cool. I'm also just going to add an extra chord called a passing chord. And I'm going to add that here just to create a little bit more decoration and movement in my chord progression. So I'm just going to grab this guy and move him there, or them there, and do you know what, I'm actually going to do that same technique I used here, turning this final minor chord, which sounds like this, into a major chord, like so. Let's hear that once. Alrighty, so say I'm happy with that chord progression. First time you hear it, oh, it's going to sound cool. But then if I loop it the same again and again, it's going to lose its impact and become less and less interesting. So what I want to show you is a magic button, a one-trick pony that you can use to make what might sound like a sort of quite boring chord progression really quite interesting. Just before I do, I'm going to copy this clip down to a channel I've prepared earlier to create a bass line, but we'll hear from that bass line a little bit later. So that's there for safekeeping. Now, let's say I am aiming to create 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cycles of this chord progression. If I glue these guys together, Command J, just a little keyboard shortcut, then now you can see those 8 repetitions of that simple chord progression. And it sounds all right, it doesn't sound bad, but rather than repeating the exact same notes all the way through, I'm going to try and put the notes in different places. Now, yeah, I could use my music theory and come up with some variations in the chord progression, but actually, there's this thing called voicing, and voicing simply means where different notes in a chord are being played. I'll give you an example. This first chord, I've got an A, a C, and an E. But I can use this one keyboard shortcut. It's Shift, up or down arrow for Ableton, but if you're a Logic user, and when I'm doing my masterclasses, I'll alternate between Logic and Ableton, it's Shift, Option, up and down arrow. And what that's going to do is it's going to transpose, or shift if you're not sure what that word means, this note to a higher place. It's still the note A, but instead of it being a low A, it's now a high A. And this is a really useful keyboard shortcut that I actually use the whole time. It means that you can create variation really, really quick, just doing it by eye, and I'll show you what I mean by that. If I select all of the highest notes in this chord progression, and I shift those down an octave, then we're going to get a chord progression that doesn't jump around quite as much. And I quite liked that jumping around, it was quite exciting, but at the same time, when chord progressions move by just like one note or 2 notes maximum here and there, they can often feel like they're singing a little bit more. Something that I talk a lot more about in the week 6 masterclass, but I do not have time to tell you that much about voice leading today. So let's have a listen to this new variation. Yeah, and you know what? If I want to create this feeling of really going somewhere, I'm actually going to start this chord progression. I'll just turn that off because it sounds rubbish. I'm going to start a little bit lower. Yeah, there. To create this sort of sense of brooding darkness. And then all I'm going to do, and I'm going to kind of just do this by eye for speed, I'm going to grab these guys as well, is I'm going to gradually shift notes up an octave. So this chord progression is going to gently, gradually move up and up to hopefully create this really sort of exciting sense of movement, or ascension, I guess the word would be. And as you can see, I'm pretty much just doing this by eye, just grabbing the bottom notes in these chords progressions and shifting them every so often up an octave. Hopefully you can sort of start to hear that already.
Absolutely, yeah, sounding good.
Another thing that I can do is I can select the middle note in all of these chord progressions, and I can transpose that down an octave so that you're going to get some high notes in this chord progression and also some much lower notes, because if I keep on going up and up and up, it's just going to get a little bit tinny. So I will quickly do that and then show you what that sounds like. And then if I've got a few more minutes, I'll maybe have a little play around with some bass and some production. So we'll just go from just before I did that. Yeah. And actually, I don't want it to go back up there, so I'm just gonna have a little jiggle around with the octave transposition or voicing, if you want to use its technical term, just to sort of play around and see if I can create something that has a little bit of that magic movement that I'm after, and hopefully I can get this chord progression to sort of come back down and feel like it comes back down to rest exactly where it started. You can see I'm not even really listening to what's going on. And obviously, it's a good idea to use your ears when you're making music, but it's just a quick little cheat that I've used quite a few times to just create a sense of movement in chord progressions. And I reckon that is going to sound quite interesting. And then hopefully, you see the end of this chord progression should match up quite nicely with where we started. So, next thing, I'm going to add a bass line, and you remember I copied this initial chord progression down here to use later. I've actually already set up, it's just one of Ableton's presets, this lovely Jupiter bass line thing, and it sounds a little like this. But of course, in my bass line, and we spend a whole week in the music composition module. Week 5 is bass week, so looking at different tools and techniques and approaches to writing bass lines. But in a nutshell, you only want one note in your bass line, not 3. So I'm actually going to just bring in the bottom note of this chord progression. And that's a great way of creating like a deep, stable, solid foundation to a chord progression. And I'm going to use that magic keyboard shortcut, pop it down an octave. There we go. And that should sound quite nice. I might even pop it down another octave to get a really sense of depth. That works for me. And a little production trick that I was playing around with just before the session. This worked quite nicely when I added this arpeggiator. So instead of having long bass notes, we're going to get lots of bass notes like that. And I'm going to duplicate that a few times, just as I did with the chord progression above. And I also want to see if I can create a bit of development in this bass line. So to start with, I'm not going to have it playing. Actually, I'm not going to have any bass playing to start with. We're just going to listen to that chord progression on its own. And then I'm going to bring in the bass. And here's one more little tip from Bass Week, a bass pedal, which is just when instead of moving the bass line with the chords, I'm going to get rid of that whilst I select some notes I don't want, I'm just going to repeat this first note, A, and hopefully when you hear it, this will build a shed load of really interesting tension. Great. arpeggiator wasn't really working as well as I'd hoped, so I've turned it off. I'm also going to show you how you can use this same approach that we were using in the chord progression, just these octave shifts, to create more interesting bass lines as well. Now, I like this bass line. It provides like a really strong foundation to the chords, but I wanted to do something a little bit more interesting by this point in the track. So instead of using what's known as the root note of the chords, I can actually play around using other notes in the chord for my bass line, and I reckon this one will work quite nicely. I'm basically trying to create an interesting melody from my bass. Let's see how that sounds. And then instead of jumping up there, I'm going to get it to go da ba ba, and then maybe it can do do do. I'm just trying to find an interesting melody in this bass line. Let's see how that sounds. Missed a note there. And then I'm going to, at the end, come back to rest on this note A again, so the bass line ends just as it begun. Couple more things, kind of production techniques really, and my music composition modules mainly focusing on the notes that you're using rather than production tips and tricks. But if you take, I don't know, the introduction to production with a Logic or Ableton module, then a lot of that will focus on things like automation. If I press A, and it's the same A in Logic or Ableton, then I can start playing around with the sound and getting that to, again, create a sense of evolution through the track. So what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to grab this knob in the Ableton preset. And you can see that when I pull it down, it creates a darker sound, and when I pull it up, it creates a lighter sound. And I'll just quickly do this by eye, but basically I want it to start nice and dark, and then get brighter throughout the track, and then maybe come back down to where it was before. Let's see if you can hear. Oh yeah, so it starts really moody, and then by this point, it's really bright, and that's just going to help to enhance the shape and the feeling of this, so it feels like it really goes somewhere. I had a happy little accident as I was preparing this project just a moment ago, when actually the chords seemed like they really worked nicely on this bass preset that I found, and I'm going to bring that in halfway through because I've also got this little arpeggiator. Let's hope it works better than the bass this time. Yeah. Just to create a bit of movement within that chord progression, and this little guy here, this arpeggiator, is just taking the notes and splitting up the chord one note after the next. The final thing that I was going to show you is I actually prepared a little kick drum that sounds like this. This is just using Ableton's drum synth. And what I've got is I've got all of these 3 tracks already in a group, which means that I can add a little effect to all of those different tracks together. And I've got a compressor, and I've clicked this sidechain button so that this compressor is going to turn the volume of these 3 tracks down every time it hears a kick drum. And this sounds a little bit like this. So without it, and it just introduces this really interesting kind of pumping effect. Anyway, that's probably all the time I'm allotted, so have a listen, and you can be the judge of whether this chord progression is interesting enough. a few little quick techniques and tips, and that shortcut, once again, it's shift, down or up arrow to change the voicing or the octave transposition. And
amazing stuff.
Thank you very much.
Awesome, yeah, I loved it. It really reminds me a lot of the Tron record that Daft Punk made.
Yeah, yeah.
That remake of the Tron movie. Awesome.
It's got that sort of cinematic feel of like really going somewhere. Yeah, works really well for film music and sort of progressive. A lot of progressive house will do this sort of stuff.
Awesome stuff. Well, I hope you enjoyed that, and that's just a kind of a sneak look at what's in store when you do come and study our courses with us at Point Blank. Loads of awesome stuff to learn. John's back with us. We've got the two Johns up into the stage, and it's time for the Q&A. So it's really your opportunity to get your questions answered. John's been answering loads of questions already, but we've got some that we'd like to answer live. We're all going to muck in.
Yeah.
So yeah, kick us away, John.
It's good to be back. Luke, you're completely surrounded by Johns today.
I am.
Everybody, first of all, thank you very much indeed for joining us and getting your questions in. You still have a little bit of time. If you've got any more, just get them in the chat window. And great to see some of our alumni here. Akil, good to hear from you again. And we also have Brian, who's going to be studying with us coming up, I think, in our July term. So I hope you're excited. And this is a really good kind of an introduction for the kind of stuff you're going to be covering. So we'll jump into the questions in just a sec. But I think what was really interesting, first of all, was that roughly a third of our viewers today are actually new to making music, which is great. You've taken the first step. You've come here to check us out today. So I guess, some people were a little bit not too sure about what would be the first step for them with regards to doing a course. So I don't know, Luke, have you got any ideas for somebody who's brand new, just a music fan and just wants to get into it?
Definitely. I think that there's loads of different programs that will help you get going, but there's one in particular which I think really kind of covers, all the bases, and will teach you everything from learning music production with the DAW, so for instance working with Ableton that we've seen John use, or Logic Pro, onto music composition, which we've already seen today, but then diving even deeper into modules like sound design, mixing, mastering, so really giving you the full package to allow you to produce your ideas from conception to the finished product. And the course that does that is called the Music Production Diploma. So I definitely recommend checking that out. You can study it over 1 year or 2 years, full-time or part-time, and it really covers sort of everything basically, and I would really recommend you doing.
Absolutely, one of our most popular courses. I guess just on that, John, for a lot of our viewers who might be new, what kind of a setup would they be expected to have to work from home?
Well, I'm here on a laptop with Ableton, and I use in my own music a laptop with Logic or Ableton, and that's pretty much it in terms of what you need to get started making music. This laptop is just the basics, stock version of Ableton, and it's got all the instruments and effects that you need to get set up and making music right away. If you want to get a little bit deeper into music production, then it might be a good idea to have some studio speakers. And one thing that I think is quite useful for a lot of people, you don't need one. As I said, like I often make music, as you just saw, by clicking in the piano roll, but having a basic MIDI piano keyboard or a MIDI controller keyboard, as they're called. You don't need a big one unless you want to do concert piano stuff. Just one, I don't know, about yay size, so that you can play your music if you prefer to play music rather than just clicking it in. I reckon that's more than enough to get started.
Great. I mean, we get this question a lot, Luke and I, and one thing we generally recommend is not to go out and spend a fortune on kit straight away. The reason being is because you have the rest of your life to add to your arsenal. So just starting with a pretty basic kind of a setup is absolutely fine. A MIDI keyboard, like John mentioned, some decent speakers and headphones. And one other thing to bear in mind as well, if you are thinking about buying any equipment or software, let us know, because we can most likely get you discounts on pretty much everything that we teach on. Got a couple of questions here. We got one from Catherine. I think she's in Vietnam, and she was asking about where our lecturers are based, essentially, and she was a little bit concerned about the time difference. So Luke, have you got anything you'd like to mention about that?
Yeah, so the majority of our lecturers and teachers will be based in the United Kingdom. We do have some lecturers, I think, that might be teaching abroad, but usually in the European area. What I would say about maybe not being able to attend the masterclasses due to time differences, all of the masterclasses are recorded and archived. So if you can't make a live session, or if maybe the live masterclass is at a time that doesn't really suit you, you don't have to watch the live session. You can just re-watch it at a later time, and you're still getting that same great content from the course throughout. And you can dive back into that masterclass anytime, as much as you like, and go over that content again and again. So hopefully you can make some of those live masterclasses, because it allows you to engage with the teacher, but if not, don't worry about it. You're still going to get the most out of the course. So yeah, I hope you join the program shortly.
Absolutely, and also the one-to-one sessions, we have a range of different times available. So if you can't make the masterclass with the greater group, they're recorded, as Luke says, but we do have other availability for the one-on-ones that can suit your time zone as well throughout the day.
Absolutely, yeah.
Cool, good stuff. So yeah, we got Brian, you're very welcome for the shout out. Looking forward to having you in July. Brian's actually going to be studying with our LA school, and he had a question. Somebody else had a similar question actually, just about the opportunities that we have for our LA school students as well. Just about, like you mentioned before, about the kind of the career aspects and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, the career opportunities go across the board. So whether you're studying with us online in London or in Los Angeles, we look to connect you with the music industry. If you're out in LA, then we're going to be looking to connect you with opportunities in LA, obviously trying to get you work within that sector and environment. So we've got professional music producers and industry professionals over there that are keeping their ear to the ground to hook you up with the best and latest opportunities that are out there. So go and see the team over in LA, speak with your lecturers and teachers, make sure you're making connections, contacts, collaborating, networking, meeting as many people as you can, and opportunities will start coming your way. That's generally how the music industry works. So you just got to put in the groundwork and you'll start seeing the rewards after.
Brilliant stuff. We've got one here from Jade, who I believe is going to be starting with us in July. Looking forward to having you on board. I think Jade's going to be doing the music production diploma and was asking about potentially doing some of the modules from the complete diploma as well on a part-time basis. I'm pretty sure we can arrange that, Luke, right?
Yeah, we can definitely do that. You can add extra modules if you want to on top of the diploma. So if there's just maybe a couple of modules from the complete diploma that you want to add on to the production diploma, then let us know what those are. We can just tag those on as extra modules. And yeah, you can study any additional programs or courses that you like. There's no problem at all.
Brilliant. Laura asked a similar kind of question. I'm not sure if you've studied the diploma with us or elsewhere, but yeah, if you were interested in adding on some of the more kind of advanced modules, just get in touch with myself and Luke. We can certainly arrange that for you, no problem at all. So let's see what we've got going on here. Yeah, Varen's asking about kind of doing potentially a hybrid course, kind of part online and part coming and studying with us in the campus. Is that something we could look into?
Potentially, Varen, yes. So it depends if you're looking at doing the professional courses or higher education courses. But yeah, typically you could maybe do 6 months online, and then you could travel to the United Kingdom and maybe do 6 months with us in person, doing the subsequent modules to complete that program and learn the additional content that you're after. So it is possible. The best thing to do is to get in touch with us either by email or give us a call, and we can talk to you in person about how that's going to work and what that might look like.
Brilliant. I think we have time for maybe one or two more questions.
Okay.
We got one from Victoria asking about our professional courses and if anything covers vocal editing with Melodyne, for example, or vocal processing in general, I think.
John, do you know anything about whether we cover vocal processing as part of the course?
Yeah, I think there's a few modules that would that would touch upon that. I've not taught the creative audio module, so I don't know that module in depth, but I do know that students come out of that. I see lots of students attending various events who I've taught. They come out of that module with just a massive arsenal of skills, more creative stuff. certainly a module that I've taught myself, the art of mixing. As far as I remember, although it's been a couple of years since I taught it, there's an entire week devoted to approaches to vocal processing from a more sort of functional, tweaking the sound. And well, there's of course an advanced mixing module which goes into a lot more detail. I'm wondering what other modules would focus on vocal specific stuff.
I think modules like production styles can also look at that sort of technique. Advanced production techniques, I think, or creative production, remixing as well is another one.
And just one other thing to say, like I always say to my students that, the one-to-ones, ideally, they're meant to be focused around specific weeks, specific topics, but I say to my students, come and ask me a question about whatever it is you want to know, as long as it's legal or not recorded, then I can answer it. And certainly if you wanted to pick my brains about melodyning vocals, that's something that I don't talk about every week, but I do it every week as a producer and a mixer. So we could definitely talk about that in a one-to-one.
Cool.
Brilliant. I think that's all the time we have, unfortunately. Listen, thank you very much indeed again. If you have any questions, just get in contact with us. Drop us an email at admissions@pointblankmusicschool.com or give us a call. We're back in tomorrow morning from 9:30. And Luke, thank you very much for telling us all the info about the courses.
Well, thank you. And thank you to John as well for joining us today for his awesome masterclass.
You're welcome.
It's a big thank you to everyone who's attended. We just want to leave you with a few last things. If you are looking at studying one of our higher education degree level courses, then we are still accepting applications for our start date in October, as well as accepting applications for April and October 2024. So do get your application in. Our admissions team will be reviewing those and hopefully making you an offer to start the course. If you're looking at maybe doing one of our professional courses, then remember we've got a start date coming up on the 10th of July, so that's just about a week and a half from now, so you can get started straight away. We hope you've enjoyed the open day today. It's been great sharing more information about our courses. Big thank you to John and John, and thank you all to you. We'll see you very soon on one of our courses. Take care and goodbye.